buenas tardes, good afternoon. Welcome to Que Pasa Mujer. Bienvenidos a Que Pasa Mujer. Estamos aquí todos los domingos a las 4 de la tarde. We're here every Sunday at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And our show Que Pasa Mujer is geared towards everything. So we don't have one thing that we discuss. Myself, Viviana, Maddie Garcia, and Nicte Cuevas are your hosts. And we're super excited every Sunday. Sometimes we may not be at our highest energy for the day when we start off, but definitely once the show is over, it's always high energy. And once we start discussing the topic that we're discussing, but we're very grateful for the platform that we have, the freedom of the voices that we have. So another Sunday talking about some great things. So we're going to go ahead and bring Maddie on. She is one of our hosts, Maddie Garcia. Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Buenas tardes, ¿qué pasa, mujer?
Good. Nice to see you. And Nick, we'll go ahead and bring Nicte on as well. I think she's on. She's ready to go.
Buenos días, mujer.
Buenos días, buenas tardes. ¿Cómo están?
Good. How's the future treating you guys?
The future is amazing. Wait until you get there.
I love it.
So there's no daylight savings where you live, Nicte?
Not at all. And that has been so hard to get adjusted to because I'm always checking. And there's been several times when we have our show and I keep thinking, is it 10 or is it 11? And so there's this past season when we did have the daylight savings, there was times when I chimed in an hour early. And I think a few times I've messaged you guys like, where's everybody? There's no one here. You're like, it's not time yet. I'm like, oh my God, I'm off. So yeah, it's been a challenge. And I realized that today was daylight savings. And usually, on your mobile devices, you'll get a message. Hey, remember daylight savings happening. I don't get them anymore. So unless I'm like on top of it, I'll forget. So this morning I was talking to my husband. He's like, wait, isn't your show today? And it's daylight savings, right? I'm like, oh my God, I'm scrambling. And that's when I was texting you guys, what time is it there? Because sometimes when you Google it, it won't take that into account. So it'll still show whatever the rest of the world time change is for you guys. So yeah. Mm-hmm. So now I'm 6 hours behind again.
So what time is it right now?
10 in the morning.
10 in the morning, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, where the show is 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So we're just kind of waking up on a Sunday morning.
Yes.
Yeah. And our day is almost like starting to.
I know. You guys winding down and I'm winding up.
Yeah. It'll be dark in 2-3 hours.
Oh, yeah. No, it's bright and shiny. If I open the curtain here, I'll look like this glow in my face. Like, ah.
Yeah. So Maddie, tell us a little bit about your week. The good things, the positive things.
Good thing. I always say we made it through one more week. So always thankful for that. It's like just at the beginning of the week, it always seems like very challenging. And it's like, oh my God, so we made it. I was off on Friday because we celebrated baby girl's first birthday yesterday. So my granddaughter turned 1 or is turning 1. So we celebrated her birthday yesterday. I have family that came from New York, from Florida. So I had a house full of people and, we decorated and we got to dress the baby up and, it was beautiful. So we had an amazing time. So just thankful and blessed that was able to have fun, enjoy my family, enjoy the baby, celebrate life with her. And just, actually today after, like everybody left and stuff, was just kind of thinking, about the cycle of life. Last weekend I was sad because somebody very near and dear to my heart passed away. And then this week I'm celebrating life. So, but blessed to be in this moment. So
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad. I've been thinking too about my grandmother's age because she will be 90 this year. Her birthday's in November. So it's almost like she's not 89 anymore. She's like, the months go by. So she'll be 90 in November. And I just think that it's amazing, and to be able to wake up in the mornings and take that initial breath once you're conscious, we take it for granted sometimes. So I think it's great. What about you, Nicte?
This week, even though it was very busy, and I'll talk a little bit about it, I feel much better. I think I finally got a good hold on this new system that I'm doing for keeping track of things, and also trying to wake up more. And like the first thing that I do in the morning, I don't know if you mujeres have this bad habit where like the first thing we do is grab our mobile device. So I'm trying to, before I do that, I was reading that it's good to reflect on things that you're thankful for. So the first 10 minutes, it's where you can, I can't remember it, but it's like something psychological, and like with your neurons and everything, you can retrain your perspective. It's kind of like positive manifesting in a way, and being thankful, reflecting on the things that you're thankful for and how you want your day to go about. So starting to be more like that, and being very selective with the things that I absorb, the things that I consume on social media, what I read, etc., etc. So it's been good, even though it's been a crazy hectic week. I'm thankful that I'm here. I love, Maddie, your reflection on the circle of life, how sometimes we'll have moments where it's hard and we're missing people, but then other times we're celebrating life and just seeing the beauty of life. And I don't know if you, Viviana, you and I can talk a little bit more about this later, but as you were talking about grandma and her turning 90, I was like, man, it's amazing. I think, at least from both of my sides of the family, she's the mujer that has lived the longest. I don't know if like I know we share family. For those of you guys that don't know, Viviana is my cousin, blood cousin. But just loving and reflecting, especially with, Women's International Month, that day that just passed by yesterday, and this whole month as we're celebrating women, it's been a nice reflection to see where we've come from, my heritage, my ancestors, like all the things that they've overcome to get us to this day. So yeah, it's been an all around good week despite it being busy.
Yeah, I love it. I was going to mention the International Women's Day yesterday, and last Sunday we started talking about March being Women's Month. So I just think that it's we celebrate all humans in general, but just women. I think we bring a lot to the table, just like men do. But since this is the show Que Pasa Mujer, we're going to highlight the women and how we're the bomb. And if it wasn't for us, the world would not be, turning, all of that stuff. So my birthday is this coming up Wednesday, the day before Maddie's granddaughter. She was supposed to be born on my day, but she said she wasn't ready. But I just think it's amazing.
You want to share?
That I know, because I'm an only child, and so is she right now. So we're selfish people. But it was so funny because yesterday my mom and my friends had a little dinner at my mom's house, and it was a lot of kids there, like their kids were there, right? So I took pictures with the kids, and I'm like, oh, these are my guests for my birthday party, but they're like under 10. But it was, I love the fact that I get to be around young people all the time, because I think that's what keeps me fresh. And sometimes I've encountered children that are sick, like really sick, right? And it brings me perspective in reference to how my life is, because sometimes we have challenges, whether it's professional challenges, parenting, financial, any of those things. And I think just kind of being still, right, and processing the information, and either you're going to grind or you're just going to break down, right? So which option are you going to go with? I was listening to a video today, and they were talking about divorce. with men, right? So the effects that divorce have on men, and they were just saying like it's an emotional toll on them, right? We sometimes don't see it, we don't hear about it because it's not talked about, but it's an emotional strain on them. So they have to like either really process the emotion and everything that has happened in that relationship to either recalibrate and like come back, like, so it's like you have to start from ground zero, or you just break down and you just never go back, right? So I think it's that it's I think about that all the time because we have choices every day. And so I try my best to when I'm struggling with something myself as an individual, I try to stay in that place too long because I'm like, hey, somebody else has it worse, right? So I don't want to be like ingrata or just the gratitude piece of your life. But today we're going to learn a little bit more about Nicte. Nicte, I don't know if you know this, but there's more women that are in graphic design than men. It's a little bit
Yes.
higher. It says there's 50.2 are
Mm-hmm.
females. And it makes sense, right? Just because of the colors, creativity, and all that stuff. And I think it's great. One of the things that I wanted you to talk about was when it comes to gender, right? Because you started off as a graphic designer, but it has evolved into a brand strategist, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when you look at people that are in your world, have you noticed a difference between men and women in reference to how they design, or maybe the administrative portion of the business? And how the customer service, like, have you noticed a difference between how men do it versus women?
That's such a good question. Oh my goodness. I love that question. So with in terms of the disparity or like the unequalness of like there's a lot more women in our industry, yes. But unfortunately, you'll hear a lot more about men leading in the industry versus women. So that's something that from the very beginning when I was going to college and going through graphic design school, shout out to U of H, I noticed that. And there was something in me that said that I want to be one of those women that shine a light on other women, like set an example, but I knew I had to learn along the way. So I always said, I want to be a sponge. So wherever I was working, I would ask questions beyond just design stuff. It was more like managing a business. How do you deal with clients and how do you deal with situations where the client might be wrong? It's not always the client is right, but how do you navigate to help them through that? So I would ask those questions. And I think it was just something que me nació, like it was just in me. And that curiosity was, I didn't want to just be given that thing. I wanted to work hard for it so that I could then go and lift others. And that's something that I think has naturally evolved without me sometimes being super aware of it, where I see a lot more yet young Latinas who are designers or who's starting off in the career, and they'll tell me, it's so exciting to see someone that looks like me, speaks like me, that I can feel like, hey, I can be there. I'm like, let's go. I want you to rise higher, and I am all for them rising higher than me, because I think if we can start to collectively bring all our different perspectives, the world can be just such a brighter place. So that's one of the things in terms of that I really want to help shape and shift that to where we can have more just diversity in terms of from different age groups, different perspectives, different cultures, different ways, from even if you grew up in Texas versus New York or New Jersey, like there's these different perspectives that we can all share. And I think we need more of that. So that's something that I've been very adamant about. Now, when it comes to running a business, I've learned that I think sometimes, and I'm speaking more from my perspective and who I am because I'm very much an empath, sometimes we let emotions clear our path forward when it comes to running a business. So sometimes we may get stuck in overthinking things or trying to do too much without getting paid your worth. So you do extra things that eventually some clients, not all of them, I've just had a few, they take advantage of that kindness and then they expect that. And then if you don't give it to them, they give you attitude. So I've learned from really great, amazing mentors that I have who have been males in the design industry who have helped me see that sometimes you need to think more strategic in business. How is this going to help the business? Or is this something that I am emotionally tied to? And if it is, how do you navigate that? So I think men are really good about compartmentalizing in that strategy. So one of the things that I saw, what veered me more towards strategy, is that I always was strategic in my way of thinking. And I know that was shaped when we were in college, where they would really drill into us concepts. Why do you do this? It's not like I'm going to wake up today and I'm going to put a hat on and I'm going to put a jacket on this side and one earring this side, and just because it looks cool. Like, you really think about, why do you do things? Why do you place things? What is this communicating? So that why was drilled in me. And as I saw saturation in the market, there's designers everywhere and they can cost from really inexpensive to very expensive. But I learned that there's strategy in everything in business and how you can communicate. So I really started to pull in more of the brand strategy, because you pull everything together. It's not, pardon, it's not just, I'm going to design this pencil, I'm going to design this poster. Yeah, there's so much more of like that ripple effect, kind of like los dominos, like when you do one thing, it kind of falls down. So I love how that piece or that thing that you create doesn't end with that, and what are the possibilities. So that's really what I really gravitated towards, the strategy, and then really thinking about it in a holistic way, because it has more impact versus just one piece and then chao pescado, move on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just found the graphic. It says 63% of design students are women and 17% are in leadership roles. So can you imagine? So 63% women go into the design field, but just 17% are in leadership roles.
Mm-hmm.
So
and that's tough. And you know what? Also, I think that this is something that applies across all industries, and it's a conversation we've had here, is that men are generally more confident, or it's easier for them to say, man, I've done this, and they don't feel like you're being boastful. And there's some men that do it really great, and you don't perceive it as boastful, like, oh wow, they've done this, and this, and this. But as women, we sometimes say, oh, am I going to sound like I'm full of myself, or I don't feel comfortable celebrating all the things that I've done. And so we have to almost shift that mindset into, if you share the things that you've struggled but also accomplished through that journey, imagine someone else, like that younger version of me would have loved to hear that. I'd be like, oh my gosh, you went through this and you got this done. So I always think about, if I'm nervous to share something that might sound boastful, is like, how can that help at least one person? ¿Quién es que está escuchando ahí que dice, ay, yo no puedo, no sé si puedo, no tengo las herramientas? Really sharing something that can empower them. And I think that we can learn from people who are really successful in the industry and seeing how you can apply it, but to you where it's natural, not going to do something that's trending because it's trending, but how can you apply it to where it honors who you are and you can empower others. So I think that it's something that I'm constantly working on, because sometimes I feel uncomfortable saying, oh, I got to, do this great thing, because I'm excited, but I'm like, oh, I don't know if this is going to sound like I'm being full of myself, and having to continually reframe that and be, no, I'm not saying that I'm the owner of the world or anything. Like, my language never says that. So kind of rechecking myself in that sense.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so I think that's super interesting, Nicte. So when did you start your business? What year? Like officially?
I started freelancing back in 2007, but it was under my name. And then when I officially put it as a business, it was in 2011. So yeah, it's been a good minute. And it was really all because my husband, his job, we were moving a lot around a lot. So finding a job at that point was very difficult. And I always knew I wanted to start my own business. Thankfully, I had great experience before 8 or 9 years in the industry before I started my own business. So I was able to apply all those things that I learned in working in different companies. My last corporate job was the Houston Zoo. I love that job. I learned a lot of things from a negative experience that I had there, but I absolutely loved the place, the environment, and just what I learned. So I think that experience really prepared me for when I went off on my own, because I was put in situations where I had to learn to be a leader when I thought I wasn't prepared. But it kind of just like, okay, I'm learning. What can I do? I'm in this already. All right, let me figure it out. So a lot of those things kind of just happened naturally. And now I reflect and look back and I'm like, I'm glad that happened, even though at that time I was like, are you serious? You know, when you're young and you think that you can take over the world, sometimes you're like, why is this? And this is not fair. But water under the bridge, this really just helped me to where I am today.
Do you ever look at your work from when you were at the zoo and you're like, man, I should have done this instead, or I should have gone with this color? Do you ever experience that?
Yes, I still have a lot of my pieces from the zoo, and I know they recently they did a rebranding. So when I got there, we were doing a rebrand, but it was still kind of confined with certain parameters. And now my friend, who is now the creative director, they did a rebrand, and I've been seeing all the amazing stuff that they've been doing. And it's been really great to see that. So now I'm like, oh, with this direction, I would have redone this thing to do this. And I know there's still a few of my old signs there, but a lot of it has been updated to fit the new brand. So it's been really exciting, because I think with any brand, you're going to eventually have some sort of evolution, even within my own company. So it's nice to reflect back and see on some of those, or even I'll look at my very first designs for when I was starting to do ads for the newspaper for University of Houston. And I see some of my old ads, and they are so basic and so simple. And I was like, oh my gosh, why did I make that type choice? But in my mind, at that young 20-year-old, I was like, oh, this is so cool. And I get to design this. And so it's nice to reflect back and see how much you've grown. And I'm sure that when I look forward like 20 years from now, it's going to be like, why did I do this? Oh, but it's cool that I did that. And I would redo it this way.
That's awesome. Nikki, I know that when we look at graphic design, there's a lot of stuff that, that I guess you as a designer focus on to kind of call our attention. It's not only about, the colors, but, we know that that's your specialty. What made you gravitate towards colors, and why?
Oh, I love that question. It's a question that I get asked a lot. And I think when I kept getting it, I was like, it just naturally happened, but I had never reflected on it. But the reality was, it connected me to culture, and it connected me to celebrating diversity from all over the world. So, backstory about me, I am a multicultural Latina. So I was born in Mexico City. My dad's family is from Mexico. I have Colombian blood. So my family from my mom's side, which Viviana is my cousin, Colombian. So I have Mexican and Colombian blood, and I was raised in Venezuela. So I was exposed to beautiful cultures, and I was very lucky when I went to school, I went to school with an international Venezuelan American school. So I had friends all over the world. So for me, the norm of embracing other cultures, learning other language, stealing my friends' good food from everywhere was just kind of something I grew up with. So for me, that was normal. And when I moved, I finished high school in Venezuela, and then I moved to the US for college. There was something that, even though I had friends who were Hispanics and Latinos, I had friends that were Asian, Indian, I kind of looked for that multiculturalness. There was always something that just felt like was missing. And I felt like I didn't belong. And I didn't realize exactly what it was. But then I started to gravitate toward color. So I started seeing me subconsciously apply more color. And at that time, trying to navigate this eloquently. At that time, I experienced a lot of unfortunate hatred kind of coming in, being an immigrant. And one of these powerful conversations that I had with my dad was that you don't fuel fire with fire. What you can do is just be strong, celebrate your culture, but you don't have to go and stand up and argue, because sometimes people don't see it. So, and he had told me to, you don't want to stand out too much where you're going to exclude yourself. And that was hard to hear. And so my way of doing it was through color. So how I was standing out bold was using color. I started using that to celebrate my cultura. I started to do more designs that were especially connected to my Mexican heritage, which were bold and vibrant. And over time, I started seeing people really connect to it. And it was people from all walks of life. And that started a conversation. And that was the way that eventually over time, I learned to bring people together to start a conversation. Oh, this piece talks about this, or with this color, I'm using it to celebrate cultures and bring people together. But for me, it's always been about not dividing, but uniting and finding ways where even if I'm celebrating one culture or one heritage, I don't want anyone to feel, and I will never say that, oh, because you're not this, you won't understand that. Like, that's not how we bring people together. That's my perspective. So it's always been about, here's where I'm coming from, or here's this perspective, or here's this brand that we're celebrating. This is what they are about. But at that core foundation is always about bringing people together. And it has a lot to do because of how blessed I was to grow up with from people everywhere in the world, that I saw that as like, man, this is so cool. I have friends from everywhere. I get to try foods. And I will attest that I did steal my friends' foods many times because I was like, oh, your food looks so good. And they're like, do you want some? I'm like, yes. And we would still joke about that till this day because my friends remember that. And I wish that more of us could have that beautiful perspective of just being around people with different walks of lives, different perspectives, because we can learn so much from each other. So that's really a lot of what shaped that perspective to using color. And now, like, the more I use it, the more conscious I am of it. Like, how can I use this color to even bring people together? Or I'm a lot more aware of cultural context for certain colors in the way that we communicate, to make sure that I'm not going to hurt or harm a community by using a specific color or language, because it is about finding that way that we can bring things together. And it's always not possible sometimes, but that's really so important for me to leverage that and just connect people, especially through color.
Awesome. I have a couple of other questions, like multi-part questions to be short. But what's your favorite color and why?
Ooh.
Has your favorite color changed? Because I know, as we grow older, as we evolve, a lot of things change in our lives. But has your favorite color changed? And then, do you feel like when you meet people, do you relate a color to them?
Oh, I love that. Ooh, those are good questions. Okay. My favorite colors. I think my younger years, I gravitated a lot towards like the vibrant, hot fuchsia pink. I mean, I still kind of wear it in some of my things. And for me, that color is, yes, connected to women, but it's bold, it's empowering, it's an energetic, it doesn't compromise, it doesn't want to hide. Even though sometimes, we feel like we have those days where we're like, I just don't want to be around it. I just need to kind of like be in a cocoon to re-energize myself. But I love that color for what it stands for. And it's not soft and delicate like a baby pink. But I also gravitate a lot towards aquas. And aquas is a very protective color for our community, like Latinos and Hispanos. It's a very, you have like those colors too with mal de ojo, the evil eye. So it's that color that I gravitate towards. But the reason why I really gravitate to that color is because it connects to the oceans, and especially the Caribbean Sea. And here where I'm in Hawaii right now, it's that ocean, and it's that beautiful green blues that feel, when you're in, you kind of physically see and feel that color, you feel more calm, you feel more grounded, you feel more peaceful. So for me, that is a color that I definitely use to bring me joy, to bring me calmness and more confidence. And that shocking vibrant pink is the one that kind of bolts me and like catapults me to kind of like move forward and be proud, but also con el agua, just bringing people together. And as I've gotten older, I realized that sometimes I gravitate more towards the aqua because I want to be more in that calm setting, in that peace setting, because I think a lot because of how, my son was born so early, that I was pushed in this like rush, rush, rush. What is it? High functioning. I can't even think of the word, but when you're always on the go, 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 and that's just how you were wired. And I'm like, I am so tired of my body being in that state of mind and state of action, that I'm wanting to slow down and be more in the moment. And I definitely think that changed once I hit my 40s. I was like, yeah, vamos a frenar un poquito. Let's enjoy life a little bit more. Being like that is not sustainable. So it really has shifted my perspective. And you asked one more question that was really good, and I'm blanking out.
Well, actually, it was two, because you just gave me your favorite color. So has your favorite color changed since you were young to now?
Yes. Yeah, and that's where I was thinking about that pink was still there. Like, I think pink led the way for my 20s and maybe early 30s. And then my mid 30s, I started to embrace more of that aqua. And now I have the pink and aqua, but it's more that aqua sometimes that leads the way, and where like it just brings me comfort, it brings me calmness, but it's also it's that calm confidence where I don't feel like I need to be like agarrando micrófono and screaming through the streets. Like, I can still feel confident, but calm. And there's this sense of, as I've gotten older, that you can still have great impact in your own way without having to scream and yell, and that energy, which is great, but it's not sustainable. Like, I've done it for so long that I'm like, I just want to be a little bit calm and find peace and share joy in the world, even though when the world can feel dark, there's so many great things that people are doing, and really kind of focusing that light onto what we do.
When you see people, do you see colors?
That's it. There's this thing called synesthesia. I cannot pronounce it, but it means that there are some people that can either taste a color, smell a color, that it kind of connects in a different way. And sometimes I can taste a color. Sometimes
I want to know my color.
Say what?
I was gonna say that next.
I want to know my color. Like, what color do you see?
What color do you see me? Yes.
Man, it's hard because I think sometimes your colors, like that energy que sacas, depends on where you're at in that mood. So sometimes you might have other colors that are more like, por ejemplo, a veces I can see you, Viviana, with aquas, or sometimes with oranges, because orange is kind of like a creative color. Maddie, sometimes I can see you with like purples. Purples is like a spiritual color. It can be grounding, but it depends. So my perception of a particular purple may be a different hue of purple. This can be like a whole nother conversation. When we're talking about colors, the perception of a color name can be different for each of us. So I might say orange, and I'm referring to like a much darker orange than this. And for you guys, it might be like, no, this is orange. And so it's sometimes hard for me to describe color by the name. And that's why I try to describe the emotion behind it, to kind of just put that context. But for me, I think it's more, I see the color more, or I feel a certain color more on people más when I'm with them in person. So like if someone is going through a really dark time, or someone that's very negative, I can feel like, and I see a lot of like dark black colors around it, but it's like other like reds, or depending on how angry they are. And I feel drained after, being there with that person. So what I try to do is I try to be more around vibrant colors, or when I'm having a rough day, I avoid wearing dark colors because it brings me like more my energy down. So I try to bring more of my energy and perspective and joy con más brighter colors. So I think it all depends, and it's not always something that I've been able to master on the moment. So when you guys ask me that, I'm like, well, there's been times, and I might do that next time in a show when it comes up and I feel like something, I will tell you guys, but it's not, I haven't mastered it to where in this moment I can just pull on that. I do love that you asked that question, because it's when I discovered that was a thing, I was like, oh, this makes so much sense, because a smell would trigger a color, a place would trigger a color, and then I would feel the senses going, like the beaches. Every time I think of a beach, I won't think of the deeper blues. It's always aquas for me. And I can feel the sand. I can hear the oceans. They're like this connection, but it doesn't always happen. Thank you, Jan. Gracias, Lili. I didn't get to see all the comments, pero thank you everyone for being here with us. Celebremos nuestra cultura todos los días. Hay que poner color dentro de nuestro ser y fuera. Yes, I love that. So this is my lovely tia, who's also been very supportive of my career from the earlier days too. And it's true. We gotta just, color can mean so much to us, how it can change our moods, influence our brands, and really just celebrating and using color strategically to energize us. For me, it's not a fashion statement. It's just a way of life, to energize ourselves, to bring people together. And yeah, I can keep talking about that. You guys already know.
So when you, I don't know how old you were when you were given permission to dress yourself, but when you did you dress with colors like you dress now?
No, I mean, I don't. Yeah. I know mi mama, and when we were younger too, that we would have those similar color dresses. It's like a white and a blue dress that we had, right? Una foto. But I don't remember at one
point. And they used to dress us like twins sometimes, even though we're 4 years apart?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm turning 40 again. You're getting older than me.
I beat you now. What are we going to do about that?
People you're in your 40s, because I'm about to turn 40. But yeah. So when did you start dressing with colors?
That's such a good question. I've never thought of that, and that's the first time someone asked me that. It was probably once I moved to the States, because when I look back, oh dear God, I was very angry at the world in my younger years, and I think that's what shifted the perspective to being more of a light and positive. I just had a lot of anger and rage, and I was going through things. So I had the Jeanco jeans. I think those are coming back now. Remember our cousin William? He gave me some of his jeans, and I would wear those. And my cousin, he's a boy. He's super tall, and those were super baggy. I could literally probably fit two of me in each leg, but I was wearing those. I was wearing dark. They were like form-fitting top shirts, but they were all dark colors. And there was a few times, mostly when we go to the beach, that I would wear vibrant colors. So I think that's kind of where that connection to that beach, missing home, the vibrant colors. And then when I moved here to the States, that's where I started to use more of those vibrant colors, because it was my way of physically pretending I was home, or I missed we grew up in Venezuela. We would always go to the beach every weekend. My mom would take us and we'd go play, and it was just like this beautiful beach culture, people playing the tambores, we have the drums, and so like people would dance, and it was strangers, but you would just get together and dancing. And then you'd have the street vendor selling pepitonas. I have no idea how you call that in English. It's kind of like oysters, like things that you kind of shuck, and they would be yelling, or they would sell eggs, and it's like all those little things, the sound, the music, the colors, all of those things were things that I missed and craved. And it's sometimes things that you take for granted because it's your everyday, it's your norm. And then when you move somewhere else that you can be very blessed to be there, there's still those moments that you miss. that I think I was craving. And that's where that starting to dress more with those vibrant colors aligned with, I'm missing home, but I also want to honor and my heritage. And I just, when I was young, I was very naive, a lot more. I had my moments where I was quiet, and then I had my moments where I was like very like angry loud. I didn't know how to express myself professionally, to call things out or to be more of a leader, because I was still trying to figure myself out. And I think color was my way of having a bold voice without having to use my voice until I kind of figured it out. Kind of like, I don't know if you ladies know how to drive a stick shift, when you're kind of like learning and you're shifting gears and you're kind of like, and you press the clutch or you let it go too quick. And that's kind of how I felt a lot of my earlier, younger years, where I was figuring out my voice, but the physical color and communication that I could use through my design was there. It's just, I was trying to find a way to kind of bring them together, which eventually happened, but that's kind of how it was.
Do you dress with lively colors when you're not working, or like just on your chill days?
Most of the time, I do. Most of the time, but I have been told that I also need to use black colors to kind of recharge my energy, because being like this, it's always being energetic and happy and empathetic. It's not sustainable. And if we're being very honest, there's days where I'm like, I don't have it in me. I just want to recharge. I just want to like do nothing and just like cocoon myself, because I wear myself out. So and it's also kind of like you give and you don't replenish yourself. So there are times when I can be a lot more aware of the exhaustion that I have from whether it was a very busy week and not honoring that, or like even as a mom, you want to keep doing more. And you're like, okay, this can wait. This load of laundry can wait. I need to rest. Or, and sometimes my husband has been, I love him because he's really been such a strong part in my life in the career when I started to build my own business, that he was like, you're burning yourself out. Take a moment, take a breather. It'll be okay. And that balance has really helped me out a lot, because you can't give from an empty vessel. And I think that's where it's okay. I'm learning to be more, all right, I can totally wear darker colors when I want to.
You have to think about the
And
actual colors and just relax.
yes.
Yeah, you have to do that. I had a question for you. I know we just kind of started, 2025, and this is only the beginning of the third month, but what's the most exciting thing you have done in your profession in 2025?
Man, this month has been an incredible, very busy month. I got some really great projects going on with Adobe and LinkedIn this whole month. So I'm very thankful for that. I think it's like I can't separate them both, because sometimes they kind of like layer on each other. But I think it's the ability and the blessing to be able to empower others by working with those incredible companies. And I've also, worked with other small businesses, but right now where I'm doing is I'm being a lot more strategic with where I focus my time. And this month has been a really great month for me to focus on developing these relationships that I have with these incredible companies. One of the things that I will get to do this coming week, this coming Thursday, is I'm actually going to get to go live. I'm going to be at the offices in San Francisco for Adobe, and I'm going to get to do some live designing for 2 sessions. And one of the sessions, I don't know if I should spill the beans here or not, but okay, let's go. Let's kind of pre-spill the beans, because anyone that's watching us here across the show or even the replays, I would love for you guys to be there. I will probably post the information on my LinkedIn or any of my other social platforms, but it's going to be through Adobe Live, and I'm doing 2 sessions. There is this really great partnership that I did with Adobe Express, and where I'm designing some templates, and it was to empower women for Women's History Month. And I'll talk about those templates. They're going to be for free, and I'll show people how they can take those templates and edit them themselves. and use that using Adobe Express, which is really exciting. And then the other thing that I'm going to talk about is the second session, which I'm very excited about, is I'm going to, almost 20 years ago, I think it's like 19 years ago, we did a project in college, our senior year, and it was about designing currency. And our professor, which I loved, really kind of gave us this idea of like, how would you redesign the currency for the United States? We were looking at currency across the world, and I know logistically it's going to be way too expensive to redesign a currency. But what I thought back then, 19, almost 20 years ago, was two things. I redesigned the currency for different sizes. So people who had visual impairments could kind of know from the size of the bill, oh, this is a $1 bill, this is a $5, $10, and so on and so forth. And then I also did it where I wanted to feature women on the bills. And I looked at women from different walks of life and I feature that. So what I want to do this time is I want to revisit that project and bring it into a digital form. And it will be inspired by the 3.5 trillion contribution that we have as Latinos. And it's going to be something that I also want to share with others so that they can use that to highlight an important women in their lives and use the digital format, meaning that you can share it as a video or whatnot on your social platforms to honor someone special in your life that may not have to be a super famous person. And I'm going to feature my abuelita in this. So, someone that I think we hear incredible stories from people who are well known, who have really fought for our communities, but sometimes it's these stories that are close to us, like Maddie, like Viviana, like women who may not be known all over the world, that I want to highlight more of those stories. So that's all the beans that I can spill for what I will be doing for that session. But I'm excited. And it has this, like, I want it to be so powerful and so good that this is kind of pulling the curtains behind how I think that I add unnecessary pressure to myself. I'm like, I have to have this. I'm like, okay. It's okay. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. But I just want it to be about empowering and just celebrating people who have had that impact on, and you could even celebrate yourself. We were talking about how hard it is for us to say things that we've done or celebrate ourselves or our daughters or our granddaughters. Like, all of these things is kind of just to kind of help break, going back to that initial question, Viviana, that you asked, is how sometimes, and like I answered it in the way that sometimes I think as women, we don't celebrate ourselves enough, or we see it as being boastful. Is that the word?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Boastful.
Like, yeah, boastful, when it really isn't. Sometimes we can just really celebrate a big accomplishment that we did and be so proud of ourselves, and we shouldn't be afraid to share that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you should definitely highlight or your timeline, and I like the currency because you have your currency samples of that in your website, if I'm not mistaken, because I still have a visual in my brain about them. 'Cause
I
I
don't know
remember
if
seeing
I
them.
have them, but I might have to bring them back. I mean, yeah,
Or I must have a copy or something because I visually can see one.
yeah, yeah. I think so, because I think that yeah,
You
because
know,
I know
so
those were like
interesting.
one of the big ones.
Yeah, one of my students, it was a Spanish class, and I like to do tic-tac-toe. So, like, even though I'm teaching this one concept, you can pick the activity. And one of the kids, he actually designed his own currency. Like, he put his picture in the middle. Yeah. And then
Oh, I
he
love
did
that.
something that was similar to his name. I actually still have it because I thought it was so creative. Do you see if you have passed down any of this talent to your son? Do you see it?
Yeah, I think my husband and I talk, our son is just the best of both of him and I. Um, he's very mathematical and analytical, which is definitely my husband and even my dad. Like, that notion of like the very
Black and
complex
white.
thinking. Sí, exacto. But
Mhm.
then he has this great creative side. He says his favorite color is rainbow, which I absolutely love. Because, like, yes, I am all for that. And he does have these where now sometimes he says, "Hey, mom, can I have some colored paper and some scissors? I want to design the solar system." And he'll go and just draw them out and color them and cut them out and paste them on like this board. And I love that he's doing that. And I one of the things that I'm very blessed that my parents were so supportive on is allowing me to just express my creativity. I got a lot of support from my parents to, gracias a mis papás, los quiero mucho, for me to take that career choice. Because I know sometimes people think, oh, graphic design, the starving artist, which I do not like that term because I don't think it applies. And I was very lucky that I had that support to allow to explore my creativity. And so when I see him doing those things naturally, I'm like, yes, just unleash your creativity, explore, try, tear paper, whatever it is. Because I think that a lot of those things, if we think about it, can translate into life, is learning to try things out. And it's okay if they don't work out. You're just trying things out. And then okay, well, this path didn't work out. Let's try something else. So I think that there's that beauty in that. And seeing him navigate this, it makes me almost wish, like, man, was I like this when I was a kid? And sometimes I ask my parents and my mom, she'll kind of remember some things like, yeah, you did this, or no, I don't think so. And it's kind of nice to see a young, like a piece of you growing up and how they're exploring the world. And it makes you wonder, like, how was I when I was that age, and trying to cherish that, that lifespan, your timeline.
It would be interesting to ask your mom if she saw tendencies of you when you were little, that you were going to move in that direction, because your mom is very creative. A lot of the women in our families, they're into sewing, fashion. Like my
Fashion.
grandmother, she was a sample maker for a really large company in New York. And I wonder if she saw some of those tendencies in you when you were little. We can ask her and give you guys an
Yeah.
update next Sunday.
Yeah.
But you know what I was thinking about as you were talking? I think that we should update our resumes and our audience too, right? Like update your resume, but not for it to fit in 2 pages, not for us to apply for a job. But like, I think if we were to do our true resume, we can kind of see all the things that we have done, right? And then you can highlight the things that you have done, because it's that humbleness, right? Like I still have, like the 8.5 paper, right? So when I started tutoring, I didn't have a lot of money. So I did a flyer, but I divided that paper into 3. So I fit 3 flyers into one piece of
Smart.
paper. And then I cut it, and then we put it in people's windshields. And that's where it started. Like my logo has evolved, and I've kept a couple of my different business cards. So like I want to do something creative with that, because it makes you see like this is where I came from. And then it allows other people to be like, dag, like really, that's where you came from? And it makes it so much more possible for other people. So I'm gonna throw the challenge out there, but of course that means I have to do it. So I'll give you guys an update next week. And if I made progress, let me write it down so I won't forget. That we could do, but I think it's good because it's not just highlighting the big things, but it's highlighting the growth.
Yeah.
And that there were times that you had to come back down for whatever the reasons, right? Like even when I mentioned the stuff about the divorce for men, like, and for women too, but just the video I was watching was more about men, but it's you fall, right? You fall. And you're allowed to fall, and you're allowed to feel those negative feelings, right? But then like you come back, right? And then you continue to come up. And I think that that's important. So if I were to think, I always think back about those 3 flyers into one 8.5 by 11, because that's where I got started. And I never had the handwritten ones, but definitely I knew how to type, and I knew how to use Word. And I think back then I used Publisher.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Does that still exist?
I don't know,
But
but I
now we
do
use
remember
Adobe
those.
Express, so I don't need to. do
Yeah.
that anymore. So yeah, but yeah, I think I think it's awesome, Nicte. I think I had another question, but we don't have time. Um, but
Oh,
I
I
think
saw
it's
it.
amazing. Yeah, I think it's amazing that you wake up in the mornings and that you love what you do. I think that is the best. That you have been able to sustain your business because it's not easy at times. Being a
Mhm.
female, that you've been able to sustain it and you have seen the growth. Like I still remember when Nicte was 18 and she would call me. She was in Texas and I was in New Jersey, and she would call me with these questions, and I'm like, oh, pobrecita, let me go get her.
So naive, yeah.
Um, but it's part of the growth. It's part of your story, and
Mhm.
we embrace it. And I just think it's awesome that what you're doing, and that it's almost kind of like the beginning of things too, because there's new
Mhm.
projects coming for the rest of the year, and that you
Yeah.
continue to impact, and that you're not being a hoarder, and that you're
Mhm.
sharing your time and your talent with other people. I think it's outstanding.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mujeres. And I mean, thank you for allowing, these were such great questions. And I love that we don't prepare any of these questions. We kind of, like Viviana was saying, we're
You
just
know,
kind of like in the moment.
yeah.
And those are sometimes the questions that I love the most because you get some really good ones. But thank you both for the space, for being such great co-hosts. And thank you, Mark. You guys don't get to see Mark, our producer, but he's always the one that makes us look good and has everything flowing perfectly for us. But
He's God in the back.
Yeah.
yes, he just has all the things working magically. But
Yes, yes.
just thank you both so much for this great conversation.
And
And
I'm glad you talked about our $3.4 trillion because I was like, dang, like, how am I going to fit that in today? You know? But we got it in. We got it in. No problem. But Maddie, we're ready for your poem. As you guys know, we finish always with a poem. So we're ready.
Yeah, I just want to say before I get into poem, to Nicte, thank you for the inspiration. Thank you for being a mover and a shaker. And I think, it has a lot to say about finding your voice. I think that's like what I got about the whole conversation today. It's like, we can start over here and it just takes time to get over here. And then you kind of you start learning who you are, who you want to be, and like you said, finding different ways of expressing that. And thank you for sharing that, and for educating people, because that's what you do. And by getting there and bringing people with you. So thank you for that. Okay, thank you for being inspirational. So I'm gonna recycle a poem today. So it's been a little while, so I'm gonna read a poem from my book. And I think, like Nick there was saying, sometimes we don't talk enough about ourselves, and we don't give ourselves props. And this poem was kind of talking outside, but meant to be for inside. So it came from a song of the same name. So this poem is from A Vision of She, which is my book, and it came from a song called Bonita. So yeah, I don't sing, so just a heads up, but I will. Anyway, so the song says something like, if no one has ever told you, let me be the first. In case you have forgotten, let me remind you again. But never ever forget that you are beautiful, bonita. Like a princess, you are beautiful. God made you beautiful, and there's nothing missing. Si nadie te lo ha dicho, yo te lo diré. Si acaso lo olvidaste, te lo recordaré. Pero por favor ya no lo dudes y no lo olvides jamás, jamás, jamás. Eres bonita, 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 como una princesa bonita, bonita. Así Dios te hizo bonita, bonita. No te hace falta nada, no te hace falta nada. Look at her. She is the reflection of perfection, the perfect explanation of what beautiful is, how she should always feel, Yet her mirror retaliates, reminding her not to forget what she ate yesterday. The minute that pleasure was added into the equation, eating became an ingestion of insecurities and self-doubt, all piled on her plate, accompanied by self-hate, finding their way to her hips, her thighs, her curves. Get a hold of yourself, she says. How much could you have gained from the joy included in every bite? Letting self-deprecation become an aftertaste, she repeats to herself. A little bit extra doesn't make me any less. A longer shirt will have to do for today. Her hair, her beautiful curls adorning her face, curls with a mind of their own, curls full of stories waiting to be told strong. Yet her mirror stares back with a sinister smirk, getting her fingers stuck under her waves, hoping that her self-confidence drowns or goes away. Breathe and look again. Your curls represent information, a carbon copy of your DNA, coil and rough like the road first traveled by your predecessors, your ancestors who had to get creative and fight so that you could inherit the right to survive, so that today you could represent them with pride. So fluff it up. Your curly hair should not be adorned by shame. It should not even be a factor in the size of the smile that you give to the world each day. Beauty is a feeling that we get to know. And once we do, we own. The secret to preservation is to hold on and never let it go. Bonita, empty your pockets and shake out the words you unconsciously hang on to self-mutilate. Don't pay attention to what others have to say. And when the mirror starts acting up, do not be afraid. You see, we are responsible for the images transposed from the mirror into the brain. And when we don't like what we see, only we possess the power to change, until the image being seen and the one being relayed become one of the same. Because it will start with those first words that you utter about yourself. So before you open your mouth, never forget, you see, God made you and God makes no mistakes. Eres bonita, 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 como una princesa, bonita, bonita. Así Dios te hizo bonita, bonita. No te hace falta nada, no te hace falta nada. Eres bonita.
I forgot Maddie knew how to sing.
I don't
know.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do.
I didn't know that. Yes,
I love
you do.
it. No, beautiful. Beautiful.
Yes,
Bonita,
great.
hermosa, de todo. Muchísimas gracias, Mari. Oh, it was so
Yeah.
perfect. You always choose a perfect poem.
She does. I just want to make sure that we say hello to Miluska and Elizabeth Duran and Lily Matos. And I think that's all that we were able. So sometimes you guys might be watching us, but if you don't make a comment or thumbs up or a heart or something, we don't know. So it's not that we're not mentioning your name. It's just that we need you to engage in some capacity so we could give you props. But thank you, Maddie. That was an amazing poem. And I'm going to see you on March 18th and you have to do the poem. Okay, perfect. We're going to an event together. She's going to come do a live poem for her new fans. But I hope you guys have an amazing week. And I hope that you take my challenge to do your resume. It should be like 10 pages. Mentira. But yeah, I just hope that you guys have an amazing week, and we'll be here next Sunday at 4:00 Eastern Standard Time. I'm gonna be in Minnesota because my son has basketball games over there. So yeah, we're excited about that. I told him we're going to the NBA. He laughs at me every time I say it. Because, we hate, especially because I'm an educator, so I'm not supposed to be promoting the NBA over academics, but I do because it's my son. So yes. So we will see you guys next week, 4:00 Eastern Standard Time. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Gracias.
Whether you're a seasoned designer, dabbler, or just starting out, this course is for you.
are just so impressed with them. Like I said, we've been with them for years. I will recommend and refer anyone to them. We stand by A+ academics. They're the best.
A+ tutorial really did help me with all my grades. They all went up when I came to this place. And I would say I recommend this school to everyone.
So it's a really good environment to be in, especially for me because it makes me look up to my parents.
If you have students that need academic help, A+ Academics is the place to be. A+ Academics, what a great place to go for academics.
It's just a really great place to learn.